Hello everyone, welcome to the very first episode of W+LL Music Reviews, where I sit down and listen to your favorite Canadian artists, both big and small, break down their aesthetic qualities through musical and production analysis, and ultimately help figure out why the decisions from the production team help the song reach out and connect with its audience. Okay, so I feel there's no better way to begin this series than to talk about my former band Minority 905, and I'm going to be discussing their 2020 release, Dancing With You. So the band started out in 2013 with John Aquino on vocals and guitar, and over the next couple of years took some time to find some consistent members before uploading pop punk covers to YouTube in 2015. Though it wasn't until early 2016 the band started getting a lot of traction on their channel, as their Green Day medley brought them some newfound attention and exposure, taking their channel from less than 300 subscribers to well over 2,000. Through uploading covers from pop punk artists and pop stars over the years, as of this day they now have over 56,000 subscribers to show for their hard work. I mean, I'm really proud to say that I helped the band get to that point, and it's nice to see things still trend upward even after I had left over a year and a half ago, but all the rest of the band members' hard work and determination is why things are still going strong, and why people are still watching videos that are several years old. Like the Green Day medley, for example, I was 19 when I filmed that, and I'm now 25, so it's just mind-boggling to me that there are people still seeing that even for the first time. Hell, even the Take On Me cover has passed 900,000 views recently and getting very close to that 1 million milestone, which no matter who you are or what kind of content you're uploading is a pretty solid achievement for, anybody to get. But anyways, Dancing With You has done really well on Spotify and has more than 170,000 streams due to consistent renewal on the Spotify curated playlist Pop Punk's Not Dead. Clearly people are digging it, and we're gonna find out why. Now let's seduce our ears with a smooth tune. Okay, so right off the bat, we get a powerful tom-focused drum part that provides suspense around the main melody, while the bass holds down the one chord to help establish what key the song is in. The section as a whole serves to build up to the familiar pop-punk section of the intro that's about 9 seconds in, where the dynamics and energy going from one section to another are increased. The cymbal swell that's sitting behind the drums in the mix sneaks up on the listener and ties the transition up nicely. To put it simply, everything is hitting harder. Ooh. The feel of the first verse at around 19 seconds in is an unexpected surprise, blending in the pop-punk aesthetic with a groove similar to the Red Hot Chili Peppers song Danny California, and then there's a catchy vocal hook that's just going right on top of it. It kind of helps to have that kind of really poppy hook over something Red Hot Chili Peppers sounding. There's a bit of a sound blend going on. It's pretty subtle, but it's not a beat that you would typically hear in pop-punk stuff, so it's nice to kind of try out something new. When I first heard the demo that John made of this song, I was pretty attracted to the unorthodox jump that happens in the melody, where the first two notes are quite a bit apart. You typically have closer distances between notes, but this one has a major sixth interval in it. Now, intervals in music are the distance between one note to the next note in a melody or chord. And the easiest way to figure out the intervals is take the two notes, use the lower one of the two, relate it to the major scale, and once you have that figured out, you can start counting up from the note, counting each line in space. So if your lowest note is 1, and then you go up to the next space, which would be 2, you could keep counting up and eventually figure out that the higher of the two notes is 6 notes apart, and that top note is an E. We see that the note on top is still within the key, and it's still within that major scale, so therefore, that sixth interval is going to be major. This sort of jump isn't commonly seen right at the start of a melody, and more often than not, it's generally going to be discouraged. But John found a way to make it work, because he's just kind of sort of crafty that way. And I couldn't find any pop-punk examples of a major sixth interval, but if you look at some popular songs that have one in it, you'll hear it in the verse of Jingle Bells, the Dashing Through the Snow line, and then you're also going to hear it in For He's a Jolly Good Fellow. Going on in the song, we get to the chorus, and sure enough, we get another major sixth jump, but the melody's going to be going down instead of up. This could be considered an example of motivic development, where the original motif, being the verse opening, is changed. In this case, we have a diatonic inversion and a diatonic transposition. There's also rhythmic augmentation involved because the first note is held just a little bit longer than in the verse. It's just kind of cool like that. Now the chord progression, or what could also be considered the harmony in the chorus, is pretty basic. That doesn't really matter because some of the biggest songs in the world have the simplest chord progressions. So people like familiarity. It's just the way it goes. One of the things that I find interesting about the chorus, though, is the drums cycle through different kinds of fast beats to not make things feel so monotonous, right? But also what you're going to hear too is that there's like a subtle change in the lead guitar in the part that's panned slightly to the right. You know, it's not like way over here, but it's more just kind of closer. When the section transitions, is going to be brought up just maybe 2 to 3 decibels, just kind of boosted up like a little bit, which ultimately adds to the big picture of helping keep a song move. These are the kinds of decisions that top mix engineers make. Now the second verse at 1:07 is where things kind of change up a little bit, and you're going to see a bit more pop influence kind of come in with that second verse. Like it kind of has a feel that's reminiscent of Friends by Marshmello. Not really Latin, but it's there's a bit of a pop groove happening there. Bass also gets a feature here, and with that we're going to hear a new frequency range as far as melodic parts go. When you don't have the musician's ear, you're really just going to be focused on, say, vocals or any kind of simple instruments that are kind of happening. But with this bass part, you're getting exposed to a new part of the frequency spectrum. It's a cool, little melodic feature. So going into the next section at 1:17, the performance intensity is much greater than what we hear in the first verse. While the full strums from guitars are the main reason for the dynamic increase, another reason is using the ride cymbal instead of the hi-hat in the drums, which is going to give the section more pop. We also get these cool Weezer-like bends happening as the section ends, and we get into that second chorus for, frankly, what has already happened. There's no new information there. The bridge at 1:45 continues where the second chorus leaves off dynamically, and we get another loud section with a strong performance intensity to build to a guitar solo at about 2:05. What I really like about the solo is that it's pretty simple, and it's straight ahead. It doesn't feel like it's doing too much, and it fits the song perfectly. It doesn't come off like the guitarist is just like, whoa, look at me, look at all these notes I can play, which just doesn't help the song. You serve the song first, not your ego. Lastly, we got a stripped down campfire section at about 2:24, which just continues to add to the feel-good, wholesome nature of the song. Then we get this big booming chorus with a couple of changed drum beats to just kind of throw the listener off a little bit. And finally, we get that big drum outro from my boy Spaz. Really just wails on the kit and just helps make for a huge outro. Now that we've broken down the whole song, let's give a shout out to that top tier production. The producer and engineer behind the recording is none other than Anton DeLost, who works out of his studio in Toronto called Room 21 Sound. We're going to hear his name a lot on this channel because he really gets his feet wet with a lot of different Canadian local and signed bands. He's just a very involved producer who just really works hard to make sure your artistic vision comes to life. And that's what any great producer would do. So, yeah. The song lyrics are pretty well thought out, and they match the nature of the music relative to the themes that pop punk typically calls upon. The protagonist reminisces over a deceptive relationship from their past while using metaphors that relate to dancing, and this implies that the couple involved were doing things romantically, right? Could be perceived that way, but ultimately people are going to just perceive songs however they want. All the ideas generally connect very well to form a cohesive story, and there's nice hooks that go along with it. So John's really worked hard to get to that point in songwriting where he can just kind of tell stories while serving out those catchy hooks to go with it. But yeah, ultimately I think Dancing With You is a pretty solid pop punk song. It gets right to the point, and everyone likes songs that get right to the point. I mean, you can very easily tell it's heavily influenced by pop-punk bands of the past such as Blink-182, Paramore, and New Found Glory, and clearly the 2000s pop-punk sound is one that Minority 905 has mastered to perfection. But at the same time, how many people are going to want to hear a genre that's already happened? I mean, it's making a resurgence with Kenny Hoopla, Machine Gun Kelly, but the reality is there's a lot of other kinds of music out there that people are listening to, and Minority should take influence from those genres if they want to reach people who aren't heavily invested in pop punk. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are into pop punk, but the vast majority of people out there are not, and this song kind of alienates them a little bit. But at the same time though, it's holding up pretty well, because clearly, like, if it's on the Spotify curated playlist and has been for several months, clearly they've done something right by reaching out to pop punk listeners. Maybe they don't need to take influence from other genres. Maybe this is an if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Maybe there's people who are just getting into those early 2000s bands for the first time, and they find Minority 905 and they're hooked. I think it's just connecting to those listeners by just calling upon all of those themes that everyone just loves. Like I said before, people really enjoy familiarity, and I think Minority 905 has hit that to a 10. But for people who are over the pop punk sound, I mean, there's just nothing there for them. But if you're someone who really enjoys, the household names of the past for pop punk, all the cliches of pop punk are found in Dancing With You. The song stays simple, it doesn't really deviate from the typical pop punk mannerisms or cliches, and when it does deviate, it's pretty subtle. If you're into pop punk, you're gonna like this, you know? That's just kind of the simple way of putting it. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this first episode, and if you liked what you saw, be sure to like the video, be sure to comment on it, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Maybe let me know in the comments if there's some other acts that I don't really know of, and just keep suggesting stuff to me. You know, I'm always out checking out new music. I hope to see you at the next episode, and remember, don't take anything personally, except kindness. Thank you so much.